we have no affiliation with Alcoholics Anonymous, but it is a fellowship group, a recovery group. I want to thank Roseann Sdoia for visiting us today, so thank you so much, Roseann. Thank you. And as far as, we don't get any money as far as Time4Joy Fellowship Group, but Joy will walk around. But first of all, I want to start the meeting with a moment of silence. And there's a Help Others prayer card right in front of you. It's a tiny laminated card.
You didn't tell me that.
Sorry.
Open my eyes to see the needs. Hold on, I need to put my glasses on for a minute. Sorry. Here we'll go. Open my eyes to see the needs of the people around me. I will do my best to serve others as you did. Amen.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Sorry about that.
And just to let you know, I Got Bridge and Time4Joy, we don't get any money at all as far as for this, but what we do is we'll walk around with the basket. So as far as the donation goes, half of the money goes toward the church, the First United Methodist Church, which has been a godsend to the recovery community and then just do with the community as a whole. And then the other half will actually go to the Sunrise Squad, which they're great with the community. It's through Little Harbor Elementary School. They do a ton of things for the community, for the elderly. They actually painted these signs up here. And just a little bit about I Got Bridge, how it got started. About 4 years ago when I lost my sight, I had lost it out of the blue for 2 or 3 months. I was at absolute end stage alcoholism. And then when I lost my sight, I qualified for a clinical trial, which just happened out of the blue. I went to Philadelphia about 15 times within that first year while simultaneously going to blind school. And then when it failed on my eyesight, it ended up saving my life because I got hooked on my program of recovery. And so when I came home back from blind school, I was walking about 15, 20 miles a day, and the bridge continued to go up, the Memorial Bridge that connects Portsmouth and Kittery. And I said to my friend Shannon, what do you think about this for a nonprofit? Not only is it a physical barrier, but a metaphor for life, how to get to the other side. And she said, I love it. How are we going to do it? I said, I have no idea. And that's where it was born. I Got Bridge. And the beauty of how it was born was, we didn't know what we were doing. The church made some copies for me, and I was dropping them off at doors. And all of a sudden, when we started shoveling, we offered, it was actually myself and my friend Jim, who I think is here, we started shoveling for someone, and not only did we help her, it helped 3 people immediately. It helped us even more than it helped others, and that's how it works, it's helping the volunteers more than the people that we're actually helping. We now actually have over 100 volunteers, and it just caught fire, and we're getting so much out of it right now. And a big shout out to Shelly, our baker. It was actually her birthday yesterday, and then Patty. Patty and Rosemary for helping there in the kitchen, so thank you so much. And also, we just had our second annual Bridgeathon a couple of weeks ago, and with the help of the raffle and the Bridgeathon itself, we raised over $20,000, which goes a huge way. And it was funny, on the first walkathon, we actually got to our goal as far as we raised some money. We're continuing to help with the community, take people to dialysis appointments, doctor's appointments, and one goal on that first one was to purchase a 15-passenger van, and we actually purchased that van on the first walkathon last year. And it was funny as far as we talked about, be kind, help others, and pray. That's our slogan with I Got Bridge. So after we got the van, we got insured. Everything was so exciting. All of a sudden, right after it got insured, and then we paid for the some repairs for the van, I called up Joy and I said, you know something? I said, we've got great news. It's all insured. We just got the heat repaired because we needed the heat to get the people over to the food pantry, the elderly people in need. I said, but the bad news is we don't have any money left at all. And she said, what? I said, well, that's not true. We have 28 cents left in the account. And then, so I said, what should we do? She said, well, I guess we should pray. I said, pray? That's all you got? It's pray? She said, yes. So anyways, we prayed. And then, we're praying for God's will. We're not just praying for money, just God's will. Whatever He wants to do with I Got Bridge, with the community, where this nonprofit is going. Then the very next day, I opened up my mail, and I can kind of sometimes see if it's junk mail and throw it out, and then sometimes, so I open it up, and the way I do open the mail is I actually use FaceTime. A lot of times with my sisters and people in the family, and then I opened up my mail. I didn't know what it was, and my sister Julie, she's like, left, right, left, up, down. She goes, right there. I didn't know what it was. It was a $5,000 check from a donor. We have no idea who it was. They said, we love what you do with the community. So it's just amazing within that one day. And then we were off and running. We have not looked back since. And from that day, we have not looked back since. Not one bit. And thanks to all of you guys and ladies who have come forward to just help us nonstop. And as far as how Time4Joy came about, was I bumped into Joy last year, and things were going really, really well, but then we needed a little bit of help with email, some IT, and I said, she bumped into her, and she said, I'm looking to volunteer. I said, great, well, we're a nonprofit. And then she came aboard, and then I ended up saying to Joy, what do you do when you get unstuck? What do you do when you cross your bridge? And she said, well, I guess it's my time for joy. And I said, that's it. It's not just your time for joy, it's the whole world's time for joy. And that's how Time4Joy was born. It's a fellowship group. That's exactly what this is. And it helps all of us recover, with people like Roseann and other inspirational speakers. And I'll leave you with this. As far as the grand prize that was won, it was from Beth Jefferson won it. She's a dear friend of ours at I Got Bridge. And it was a lobster bait for 50 right on the ocean, hosted by my parents, Don and Mary Rivers. It's going to be professionally catered. And that will be in June. And so Beth Jefferson, when she won, she said, well, I want to give back. She said, let's I Got Bridge do whatever they want with it, And herself and her partner will come to, to the event, to the lobster bait. She said, but give the rest away, see what you guys can do with it. So we said, okay, and then we called her up. She said, see what you come up with. And what we came up with as a board, and we decided was, we're going to have a volunteer of the month, which we implemented last month. And so the volunteer of the month is going to be able to bring themselves and a guest, so that in itself is worth $500, $250 a piece, and there's no better person to start this volunteer off than Emma, volunteer of the month. Come up, Emma. Emma does a ton for us. She's the raffle queen. She's the best salesperson we know. And there's a joy coin. Awesome. Here you go. Thank you so much, Emma. You guys so much for I Got Bridge. Thank you all for showing up. We couldn't do any of this without you. And without further ado, I'd love to thank you so much. You introduced Roseann. She was so nice to come up here. When I spoke with her a few months back, told her about what I Got Bridge is all about, and she was just all into service work, totally into the community. She said she just would be so excited to speak, and I was just elated to actually have her speak. She's the author of Perfect Strangers, and she'll tell you more about her story. So thank you so much, Roseann.
Thank you, Freddie. Can you guys all hear me okay? Okay. First off, thank you for having me. I'm so privileged to be here presenting in front of all of you. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you my story about what happened to me and kind of lead into why I'm here, and kind of then do maybe a Q&A afterwards if anybody has any questions, which I am literally an open book. So before I get started, I want to show you a quick video. And I'm going to apologize if there's a little feedback until I get the video playing and I get the microphone where you can hear it. And I want to thank Joy for all of her technical help. She is a lifesaver. Hold on.
Let's get through it first, Roseann. Say that again? Let's get through it first.
First on 5, the woman who stood this close to accused marathon bomber and somehow survived the deadly blast. Roseann Sdoia is recovering recovering from devastating injuries, but she is determined to fight back. Our Kathy Curran has an interview you'll see only on 5.
I did look down, and there was a pool of blood.
Try to find the right spot.
Like, if this is coming for me, I'm gonna die.
Roseann Sdoia closed her eyes and focused on breathing to stay alive while she was on the ground in the aftermath of the explosion of the second bomb on Boylston Street.
To let them know that I was alive, I would open my eyes and say I'm here, and then close them again because I just did not want to see any more of the tragedy that had happened.
You can see Roseann just over the right shoulder of the runner in this picture, where she was waiting for friends to cross the finish line. Bombing suspect Johar Tsarnaev is behind her, the bomb right under her feet. Her leg had to be amputated above the knee. She has burns on her arm and staples in her stomach.
I honestly haven't thought of what they did to me, and I don't really have any hatred, at least not at this point.
Right now, Roseann's focus is on healing. A visit from a Boston firefighter who helped save her life brings some joy, and support from friends, family, and a city that is still strong is the best medicine she could ask for.
It's actually a force behind me, knowing that I have so much of this love that I can't quit.
Roseann has never been a quitter. I've known her for many years. Her spirit is infectious, and even in the midst of coping with this horrific tragedy, her strength is inspiring.
When, I found out, I broke down. But then in the back of my head, I was like, this is Roseann. And you know what you're made of.
I can do it. I can do it. I'm Boston strong.
For WCBB News Center 5, I'm Kathy Curran.
Inspiration, Roseann.
Sorry about the technical difficulties, and again, thank you, Joy, for your technical help. I like to show this video because it gives you an idea of where I was almost 10 years ago, and basically where I am today. And I also think that it explains the love that has pushed me through to where I am today, and I feel as though that within this community, there's that same love that helps all of you, and whatever your daily challenges might be, get to where you are. Now, at the end of the video, I say that I'm Boston strong, and that's because I do think that I am a true Bostonian. I love all of our hometown sports teams here in New England, and I also live in the city at this point in time. I live in the North End section, the Italian section of Boston. And so I really consider myself that I am a true Bostonian. But that story of that really starts in my hometown and of course my technical thing today is not over. Starts in my hometown of Dracut, Massachusetts. Now, we're not that far from Massachusetts, and Dracut's not that far from the New Hampshire border, but is there anybody in here who does not know where Dracut is? Okay. Sometimes even when I'm giving a speech in Dracut, I like to ask, just in case if I'm confused. Now, this is where I grew up. This is where I learned my life lessons and my family values, and it's where my parents had a sense of my personality from a very early age. I was one of those kids that was always moving, always active, always doing something, always being social. I mean, to the point that I tried to go to a Puck Warner dance when I wasn't even a cheerleader or had anything to do with it. And my parents were like, "You're not going, why would you go?" And I'm like, "Well, my friends are going. My friends are going, I would like to go." So they knew from an early age that I was going to need some guidance in life and something to really kind of get energy out of my system. So I did a lot of the recreational sports teams back then. We didn't travel like the kids do today, but they'd signed me up in softball and tennis lessons. And the other thing was that my dad had us doing the chores around the house. One of two. I have an older sister, so no boys in our family. And my dad was like, "You know what, you're gonna do the chores that anybody would do." So over the course of a year, we would, in the fall, we'd have to stack wood, and in the summertime, we would have to mow the lawn. He likes me to mention that it was a ride-on lawnmower, just so you don't think that he was doing any sort of child abuse or, labor issues. But the other thing that we did too was that we would have to shovel our driveway in the wintertime, and it was a relatively big driveway. And I would complain because I didn't want to do this. I don't like the cold. I hate the cold. I don't know why I live in New England, but I do. And I've tried to get away on numerous occasions, and I've always come back. But I told my dad at one point, well, he said to me as I was doing the shoveling, he's like, shoveling builds character. And I said, don't you know I have enough character already? And he just basically shook his head. So in that, I thought, in this little town of Drayton, because when we lived there, it was super rural, and we would take trips into the big city of Boston and go to Faneuil Hall and the North End and go to games and different things along those lines, that I thought I would use college as my stepping stone to go from this town of Drayton into a big city. Now, again, my parents had a different idea, knowing how active I was, that I ended up going right next door to the University of Massachusetts Lowell. I personally was not very happy with that, but attending there is where I really made my lifelong friendships. It's where I learned to put these skills that I learned in college into a professional life, and to really grow and become a responsible adult and go off into the work environment and travel. And I lived in California for a few years. I lived in Florida for some time. And, this is where I learned at this school. I took my lifelong lessons that I learned at my home in Drayton with the family values to this college, to my friendships, and then into the professional world, where eventually over the course of time, by 2013, I had become a senior vice president at a real estate development company. Now, growing up and not really liking the winter, what we would do with those trips into Boston would be that the springtime we would go into the baseball game that is held that first Monday in April, the third Monday in April at the Red Sox, because school vacation would start that week. Our spring vacation would be the beginning in that week in April, that third Monday. So a couple things for me. It was A, school vacation. B, spring was on its way. This was like a definite reminder to me that the winter was behind us, and now here we're going in. And this also represented the Boston Marathon, which is held on Patriots Day, as I'm assuming everybody here knows, and that it marks the beginning of the anniversary of the beginning of the American Revolutionary War. So year after year, growing up in that town of Drayton, starting at a young age, my dad would take us into the city on this particular Monday, and we would go into the Red Sox game, and at the time, years ago, going there, the game actually would end basically when all the runners would just be making their way into the city, like the regular runners, not the elite. So once the game was over, we would make our way into Kenmore Square, and we had a neighbor in Drayton who basically has run the Boston Marathon almost every year since like the early 80s up until maybe 2 years ago, where she basically stopped running. But with our dad, when we got out of the game, we would go and see if we could catch Linda coming into Kenmore Square. Back then, obviously, we didn't have any fancy cell phones with apps that could track people. So some years we would catch her, some years we wouldn't. But being there, the energy that surrounded you watching these people, whether it was the people running or the people cheering, it was truly amazing. Is there anybody in here who's never been along the course anywhere for the Boston Marathon? Okay, so there's a good handful. Is there anybody here who's run the Boston Marathon? Yeah, me neither. I will say though, the energy, and for those of you who have not been anywhere along the line, it is amazing. Like the struggle that these crazy people are trying to run 26.2 miles, which is just mind-boggling, because I don't even want to walk 5 minutes, that they do this thing, and by the time they're getting into Kenmore Square, a lot of them, just a regular runner, is really burning their energy, and some people are crawling, some people are cramping up, and the way that the crowd comes together to support these people that are complete strangers is unbelievably amazing. And I would say that every Marathon Monday, as I'm standing there cheering, I would think in the back of my head, someday I'm gonna run that marathon. And then Tuesday morning I wake up and I'm like, what were you thinking yesterday? Now, I will say that I did get into running, and it has always been a love-hate relationship. I would hate getting myself going, but once I was done doing whatever it may be, I would do local 5Ks and 10Ks, I would, feel really great. Kind of get a very small runner's high because clearly I was not going that far. But it also became a very sociable thing for me where I had a group of friends who were runners. My friend Jen, she runs the marathon, I don't know how many times she's done it, 10, 12 years. So she got me involved in doing these local 5Ks, and it would be a great time, even though running is kind of an individual sport. At the end, you kind of all would, get together at the end, and sometimes there'd be a barbecue and a band, and different social aspects, and you got to meet different people, which I thought was amazing. Now, I thought on April 14, 2013, which was a Sunday, that if I convinced three of my girlfriends to do the Boston Athletic Association 5K, which was always held the Sunday before the Boston Marathon, the day before, that if I got them to do this 5K with me, that maybe I could convince one of the three to train for the next year for 2014. I knew that it would take me a full year to get to that point of going that far. And in 2013, the finish line was the actual iconic Boston Marathon finish line. So I thought maybe crossing that finish line, just doing a 5K would inspire me to do a full marathon. And I was hoping the same for one of my friends. In this bottom right-hand picture, or left-hand looking at it from your side, those are my three girlfriends that we did the BAA 5K on April 14, 2013. For two of them, it was the first time that they had ever run a road race, and coincidentally, it's the last time they ever ran it. They were definitely not happy with me. But we finished it. We were able to complete it, they were able to complete it, and we spent that Sunday afternoon just enjoying the Back Bay of Boston with all of the visitors that are in town. The Boston Marathon is the most historical marathon in the world. People come from all over to either support friends that are running, to just watch it, or to participate. So the energy in the city really starts building up the week before. And on this Sunday, everybody's there. And so it is just so much fun, and it's just really an amazing feeling to be back there. So spending that day in the Back Bay of the city with all of these people, knowing what we just did, and I won't lie, I ran so that I could have some drinks and who doesn't like nachos? Who doesn't like ice cream? Who doesn't like french fries? I like to eat. I'm Italian, I like my food. So, I felt great running this 5K. We spent the afternoon having some brunch, doing some shopping, and at the end of the day, we knew that we would see each other the following morning. Over the course of years, going with my family to the Red Sox game and then going to the marathon, it had transitioned to going with my friends at this point in life. Now, to the point that I'm not sure if I've ever missed a marathon from, say, like age 15 until now. And it became my favorite day in the city. So at the end of the day, when we said our goodbyes, I knew that I would see them at some point on Monday. I've even left work jeopardizing potentially being fired at a new company because they didn't know I was taking the day off to go to the marathon. So it was just my favorite day, and no one was going to stop me from going in to see the Red Sox and then the marathon. On the morning of April 15, 2013, I woke, like I did every year, tried to figure out what I was going to wear for my own personal marathon around the city, and went into the Red Sox game. This is the last picture I took on April 15, 2013. It doesn't do the day justice because it was a beautiful, clear spring morning. It was chilly, but gorgeous. And as you can see, we had amazing seats. We were like 5 rows behind home plate. And even better, they were free. So can't get better than that. We coincidentally had some friends sitting right behind us, and we were having a great morning. And it was about the 7th inning that we had been notified that our friend Jen, who was running this year, would be coming into Boston within the next hour or so. We knew with the barricades and the road closures how long it would take us to walk from the ballpark over to our annual meeting spot. Over the course of time, instead of going to cheer people on in Kenmore Square, we ended up going to a restaurant on Boylston Street way back when it was called Vox, and then eventually turned into Forum. And this is the place that our group of, our age group, would go to this location. And you knew if you hadn't seen somebody for a year, like an acquaintance or somebody like a friend of a friend of a friend, you knew on this Monday at this location is where you would see them some point throughout the day. So, and this was also the point where if you had friends running in our group, they knew that that's where they would want to watch for us as they made their way down Boylston Street. For that last quarter of a mile to the finish line, this is where they would get that last push from us to make it the rest of the way. So when we were notified on our fancy cell phones with our fancy apps that Jen would be coming, we left the ballpark. We made our way over to Forum. Once we got there, it basically, we were there for about maybe 20 minutes or so. We did a walk around to see if anybody else had arrived, if anybody from our group of people would be there. And there were some acquaintances, and we said hello. 20 minutes, we get another text that Jen is now in Kenmore Square. Knowing how quickly she runs, and knowing that there's no road closures because she's on the course, we stepped out to the barricade that separates the spectators and the runners. We knew that we would need to be in our spot so that when she came down Boylston Street, she would be able to see us. Stepping out to that spot, initially, I was on the right-hand side of the mailbox. That's my friend Sabrina with the glasses and the dark hair. We had stepped out there, and I don't know if any of you noticed, I'm short. Joy, you did because you knew I couldn't see over the podium with my computer. I couldn't see over the mailbox. And in my defense, it is on a little raised platform, so. I stepped to the other side, separating myself from my friends. Shortly after that separation, our friend Megan showed up, and she's the girl to Sabrina's right with the glasses. And Megan came over to where I was standing on the other side, and we said our hellos, and she asked the gentleman next to me if she could squeeze in between us, and so we could see Jen coming down together. And he basically said no. He's like, I'm waiting for somebody. So we kind of did a shrug of the shoulders, and she went back over to where Sabrina is. Now, at this point in time, little did I realize how that mailbox would save my friends' lives. Little did I realize, for the first time in Boston Marathon history, the entire race would be shut down. That has never happened. The year before, in 2012, there were historic heat temperatures, and anybody who had a bid in 2012 was given the option to run it or to postpone till 2013. They didn't even shut it down with these issues, health issues with the heat. They decided that they were going to keep it going and have people run it if they chose to do so. Little did I realize at this point in time how familiar I would become with that white hat. And then lastly, little did I realize how profoundly my world was about to change. It was literally, a minute, 2 minutes from the time that Megan came over to say hi and went to the other side. And all of a sudden, there was an explosion down to the left. Now, for those of you who have been to the marathon, and if you've been along Boylston Street, you know that there's never been celebratory cannons before. You know that all the elite runners have come in hours ago, and that they wouldn't really be doing this for the regular runners. All these different thoughts went through my head in a matter of 10 to 12 seconds, as well as the thoughts of people saying the building came down, it was a manhole explosion. And then again, in those 10 to 12 seconds, I made the decision to turn to my right and run. And as I made that turn and took 2 quick steps, I saw 2 flashes of white light. And then everything really went blank. Now, it's within these moments of coming to on the sidewalk that I realized that some of the life lessons I learned in that house in Drake needed to come into play. And it's amazing, I've had so many people come up to me and say, I don't know how you did what you did to get through it. But in those moments, all of a sudden you go into survival mode. Or at least I did. And in my mind, I thought to myself, you need to stay calm and cool and not get caught up in the chaos that's going on around you. I made the decision that I had choices at that moment. I had the choice to save myself or let myself go. And within those seconds of deciding that I was going to try to find help and just see if someone could help me, I mean, it was truly amazing of just people walking like zombies or running. It was a mix of everything. That this guy came out of a cloud of smoke. He was my angel, as I call him. And he picked me up and he carried me to the middle of Boylston Street. Now, it's these moments that I realized that the choices I made are what kept me here today. And it's also the choices that some of these people made that kept me here today. I decided that I was going to do what I could to keep me alive. Well, that was closing my eyes and taking deep breaths through the craziness, through the pain. I knew that if I saw devastation around me, more so than what I had already seen, that I would not want to live. I knew I would become hysterical, and that was not going to help. And I knew that I was going to need to let the people around me help me and support me. And at that point, I had a police officer, Shana Catone, come on site and help me alongside this young college student who made the choice to run in and help, which still boggles my mind to this day, what possessed him to do that, because I was taken off. But he was my angel. Shana Catone, Boston police officer, and firefighter Mike Materia, plus many other people. There were other off-duty firefighters who helped, there were off-duty doctors who helped me, and that goes for all of the other people that were along the side of the road that had been injured that day. People just stepped up, unbelievable, to help all of us. In their decision to do that is what kept me going. I kept myself going, knowing that I needed to live. I didn't want to live like an amputee, and although I didn't know it at the moment, I knew I would become an amputee, and I thought to myself, you don't want to live like this. But then my family and my friends flashed in front of my face, and I knew that I needed to fight for them. I couldn't see my nieces or my grandmother, my parents go through this type of tragedy that would end up affecting them. I thought, if I can just control it and deal with it myself, stay calm, get to help, everything would move forward. Now, I have this picture in here. It's me and my sister. This is probably day 3, probably like Wednesday-ish of that week. And I have this in here, not because I look good, because I know I don't. I had many good friends tell me that my hair was fried and I looked like, oh God, what's it, Tammy Faye Baker or whatever. It was awful. The hair was all singed. I had a friend on the Boston Police Department give me a hat and told me to wear that. And even though my mom said, you look good, I knew she was lying. No one ever gave me a mirror. But I have this picture in here because I'm smiling and my sister's smiling. My decision was that I was going to focus on getting better. I've always been a very realistic person, and I do think that comes back from growing up in that house in Drake. We were never allowed to have a pity party. We were never allowed to, not that we weren't allowed to cry, we were, but my mom would always say, crying makes you ugly, don't cry. Your eyes get puffy, your face gets red, your nose runs. And so, I thought to myself, okay, let's be realistic. My leg is not going to grow back, is it? So what am I going to do? I'm going to need to focus and move forward and get through this as best I can. And, I will say this over and over and over again, The support from my family, my friends, and complete strangers. Maybe some of you here, even in this room, were there for me and everybody else who got injured that day. But it was truly amazing. You could feel that love and you could feel the support, even from the people that were across the world. Now, it was amazing, but it was also kind of shocking for me, because I was always an able-bodied person. I was someone with my friends who would volunteer a lot, different organizations, and more specifically with the Jimmy Fund organization. I would volunteer at their walkathons, I would volunteer at their annual telethon, and more importantly, I would volunteer at their ice cream scoop-a-thon, obvious reasons. It was a little for them, a little for me. And you know, this was really hard for me to understand that people were stepping up. People were there to help me, whether they were donating, whether they were bringing me food. Some people were bringing me makeup and nail polish and hair products, and I really didn't know why. But, you know, it was all these different things that really kept me focused, kept me moving on. I knew I wanted to get back to living. I had a good life before, and I wanted to continue that, but it was really my choice. I knew that no one was going to do it for me except for me. And you know, even till today I struggle with that. But one of the things that I really wanted to do right away was run. I want to get back to running. I am fortunate, and I will say it over and over again, I'm less injured than a lot of people that were there that day. And I was given the opportunity from different organizations and different charities that came out of the woodwork right from day one. If I'm an amputee going through life today without such a media situation that we had, I don't know how people do it. Organizations just, you know, came out and were there to help us. I was able to get a running blade, and I was able to go to some running training groups to realize that I really don't want to run anymore. That love-hate relationship is now a hate relationship. But I've also been given opportunities from the support to do different things and try different things, such as back in 2017, I was able to do the Empire State Climb Up. Now, I don't know if any of you realize this, but climbing stairs is a competitive activity. Who knew? Amazingly, it's like 15 stories and 1,600 steps, or just under 1,600 steps. The male person who holds the record, and maybe it's changed since then, is like 11 minutes, which is unbelievably crazy. It took me an hour. And then the female record is just over 11 minutes, which I didn't realize that people compete, number one. Number two, I can't even imagine going upstairs that fast. But I was able to try it. And you know, I tell people that anybody can do the stairs. I mean, I'm again fortunate. I practiced on the Bunker Hill Monument pre-COVID, and was able to go up and down like 4 or 5 times, but you had to work up to it. But it was definitely a lot easier than trying to run and trying to figure out how to get my knee to move. The other part of it is that I now have been able to, through all the support, have various types of legs. These are my decisions these days. When I wake up in the morning, what leg am I going to wear? Now, some might think it's a little difficult to make these decisions, but I would say more recently, the first one is my typical walking leg, which I have on today, and then my dress-up leg that I wore once and will never wear again, it's too heavy, and then a bike leg and my running leg, and then my trusty crutches that I tend to take with me if I'm going on vacation, so if I need to take my leg off for whatever reason I can. And, you know, I stand up here and make these jokes about it, but I can't stress enough, and I'm sure everybody here in the room, and I think probably why you're here today, is that I wouldn't be able to make these jokes because of the support that I received. Right from the get-go, the people that helped me on the street that day have been there since day one. The doctors, the nurses have become family. The therapists are best friends. And I can't thank them enough for doing what they do. These people choose to be in these fields. They chose to run in to help. And, you know, yes, in some instances, part of their job, but helping people from a bombing is really not in their job description in any way. And I'm sure that on a daily basis they don't make these connections, but because of this special situation, they have become truly special people for me. The other group of people that I have to comment on that have really gotten me to where I am are our military veterans. If there are any veterans in here, I have to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because they honestly were there just as fast as these charity organizations. Although I will never consider myself one of them, they have taken and really brought us into their group. They came to show us, and I think more importantly, our family, that we were going to be okay. Because in the moments after this, I was in a sedated coma for 24 hours to make sure that I would survive through it all. And coming out of it, although I was on morphine, I didn't realize the full extent of everything and couldn't understand why people were there. But they really helped my family. They helped my family know that I'd be able to move back into that North End apartment with 18 stairs up to it without an elevator, that I would be able to live on my own, that I would be able to go back to work and be normal. To see some of these veterans walk in with no arms, no legs, one leg, one arm, some eyes issues, it was truly amazing to see these people and be able to see that, yes, with work, I will be okay. And it made my family so much more relaxed and not as stressed being able to see them. With all of this support, and as Freddie had alluded to earlier, that I find it my job now to really kind of share my story and help people if need be. I have doctors call me, I have therapists call me, reach out, and if someone's going to become an amputee or has become a newly amputee or is having struggles being an amputee, that I'm there to actually add some advice and guidance, or just tell them what I've figured out over the last 10 years. There's no Amputee for Dummies book out there. If you don't know an amputee, you really don't know what to do, where to go. You start out with the word prostitute instead of prosthetist. It's definitely a tongue tire. And you don't know what to do. Does anybody here, unless you're an amputee, know where to find a prosthetist? I don't know, you gotta Google them. And they're all different. And the advice we got from those veterans was that every amputation might seem like it's the same, you're an amputee, I'm an amputee, but every injury and every amputation is different. And every prosthetist deals with these amputations differently, so you need to find the prosthetist who you click with, who is convenient for you, who makes you get back to where you were in life. And it's from them that I want to pass this word on to people. This young female, she became an amputee due to health issues over the course of life. And, I walked in, and the first thing she said to me was, "Oh my God, I can wear skinny jeans and boots again." That was her thought, that was her worry. And I understand that. Being a female, which there's not, there's more male females, more male amputees than there are female amputees. But, these are things. How do you get back to wearing the clothes that you wore? Everything fits differently. Shoes are an issue, clothes are an issue. These are everyday obstacles that you don't really think about until you're in this situation. One of my fellow survivors, and ironically, she was there as I was there. We're friends pre-bombing. We knew each other. We figured we'd see each other that day. We were both at the Red Sox games, different seats, and she was a few feet behind me when the bomb went off, and she lost her leg as well. And I love this story, and I tell her I share it all the time. One of the Marines came in to visit her, and he was like, "I'm here. Ask me any question you want." He's below the knee, just like she's below the knee. He's like, "Ask me any question, I've got the answers." And she looks at him and she goes, "DJ, will I ever be able to wear my heels again?" And he looked at her and goes, "Heather, that's the only question I can answer." She stumped him, which is hard to stump DJ, I've learned over the years. But again, these people came because it was a media sensation, and they came to help us. And I feel as though that I try to do what I can to those that need the help. Additionally, This past year, my physical therapist from Spalding, she now teaches at Boston University. And she asked myself and several other amputees if we would come in and be mock amputee patients for the day, so that her freshman class could have hands-on experience dealing with amputees. I was like, sign me up, because she got her knowledge working with us, and I realized how important that knowledge is. Not just what exercise to give somebody, but what words to use, what respect to give a new amputee, when to put your hands on them, when not to, and let them figure it out themselves. I almost gave one of the students a heart attack because I was going down, they wanted me to show how I go down the stairs, and she actually thought my leg was collapsing and that I was falling. And I think she got hurt just being freaked out more so than me, and I didn't know what was going on, but she didn't expect me to be able to go down the stairs like I did. And so, that was a lesson for her. And yes, she acted very fast, which is great, because if someone was truly falling, she was there to help. And if I can help amputees or people that are going to become therapists or are therapists dealing with amputees, I'm happy to be there. The other support that I'm going to lastly speak about are the other survivors and those friendships that we've made. Every amputee is different, every amputation is different. We may have been injured the same day in the same way, but we're all so different. Some days we have our good days, and I know I'm up here making jokes and laughing about it, but I have my days where it's a black day. I don't want to go anywhere, I don't want to put my leg on. And I won't lie, every morning I sit there and go, I put my leg on. It takes 5 minutes. And only 5 minutes because I dilly-dally. It would take 2 if I just put it on. But, I entertain myself with other things because it's just a pain in the neck to have to lug around 10 pounds of dead weight all day, blah, blah, blah. But we all have our issues. We all have these problems. We all have these obstacles. And I think you have to keep, as much as you can those days, the positivity going. On the days that you don't have it, just let the negative feelings come out, deal with it the next day, move on. But keep also in the back of your mind, your family, your friends. It's not just affecting you, it will affect everybody around you. And what can you do to make yourself feel better? For me, sometimes it's eating like a package of peanut M&Ms. That's how I make myself feel better some days. Other days, it might be going for a nice long walk. It might be trying to exercise, do something, get together with my friends, go to dinner, have lunch, something to put those negative feelings out of your mind and forget about them. That's the one thing that if you can move on from something for at least a day, that's great. And, one little snippet from last night, I went to dinner with one of my nieces. She goes to UNH. She's dealing with alopecia right now, which is a horrible thing for a 20-year-old to deal with. And, she's got it in a widow's walk. She's got it on the back of her head, and it's definitely stress-related. But she had a headband on. She had her hair up in a ponytail, and, we were joking around. And she said something, fresh or whatever, teasing me, and I pulled her hair, and I was like, I'm so sorry. She's like, come on, it falls out on its own by itself. And I'm like, I know. I said, but at least, I didn't think of it. I didn't see it, because she had it hidden or whatever. And she goes, I'd forgotten about it until now, Auntie. And I said, see, it's good you forgot about it. She goes, until I look in the mirror. And I'm like, yeah, I know that feeling. Looking in the mirror and seeing a reflection of myself with this ugly leg, it is shocking. But you know what? You have to think about other things, the things that are important. That's family, that's friends, and it's just life. If you can make it a good life, that with your choices, then just keep moving on. And I'll leave you with this quote that I read once from Buddha. I forget where I was giving a speech, and I wanted to look at a quote, and then I came upon this, and I've kept it. And it's from Buddha, and the quote is, every day we're born again, so what you do with today is what really matters. So as you go off today, tomorrow, whenever it may be, and you find yourself in those difficult situations, take a step back, take a breath. What are my choices? Am I going to choose to be positive or negative? Can I let myself shut down for today, or do I need to keep pushing through till tomorrow? And just remind yourself that our journey here in life, it is not a sprint, but it is indeed a marathon. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Freddie, do we have time for Q&A or no? You tell me.
Yeah, you can probably 10 minutes for Q&A.
I won't be offended if you tell me no.
Oh, yeah, of course. And, yeah.
Do you want to talk?
Yeah, sure. And then,
So Joy will walk around the microphone if someone has a Q&A, and then Emma's going to walk around the donation basket. Once again, I Got Bridges doesn't keep anything from that at all, but it's the First United Methodist Church as well as the Sunrise Squad. And,
Any questions?
Just remember you're on Facebook Live for 40%.
Right up front here.
Facebook Live.
Hi, everybody. And hi, I want to say thank you for sharing. I see you as a woman of dignity, of grace, and of courage. And I just, my question was, how did you keep such a positive attitude? My thoughts are that you have a solid spiritual foundation, that you have a strong faith, but how did you keep such a positive attitude?
So, and let me know if you can't hear me, but again, I'm Italian, so I can talk very loud. Walk around. Can you hear me in the back? Okay. She asked how I keep a positive attitude, and I don't know, sometimes I feel like it's stupidity. I don't know. I also think at times that I just don't question things. I think I just move forward. If you stop and like debate and I don't know, if you kind of beat the dead horse, you're not going to get anywhere. So a lot of times I just decide that I'm going to do. And then wherever I end up, that's where I end up. And you know, you mentioned faith, and I hope the church doesn't fall down around me, and that none of you look at me differently, but I'm not really sure where my faith is in the sense of, do I think God saved me that day? I can't say that. And then some of the other survivors had expressed their feelings that they don't like the saying that, you know, everything happens for a reason. But I do feel that there is something out there that guides us in these choices. Whatever that may be, I have no idea. But there's something along the lines that we take certain paths in life, and whatever I did before worked well for me, and I figure I'm just going to keep moving forward and see where it gets me. And we all have our time in life, right? If the bomb couldn't take me, you guys are stuck with me. Who knows what's going to take me next? But I will say one other thing. I did have moments of like early being in the hospital bed. I had a grandmother who had passed the year before that my sister and I took care of a lot. And she was in her 90s, and seeing her go through these health issues and in and out of the hospital, and she had some dementia, and just watching her recovery from the time she'd go in and then her really failing, I thought to myself, oh my God, this is so demeaning. Being in a hospital bed, having to have nurses do things for you. And then I was in that, and I'm like, oh my God, I never want to go through this. But then, this far out, and even I'd say a year out after that, I thought to myself, you know what, I'm not afraid to die. I know how it's gonna go, and it's gonna go quick. And I just kind of put that behind me, and it was an odd, surreal feeling to go through that process, and to realize that I didn't want to go through it ever again, but then to realize that this is life, and that's what's gonna happen eventually, somewhere down the road, and if that's what happens, and I hate this saying, it is what it is, but it is what it is. Life and death. Taxes and death, right? Is that what they're saying? Another?
North End, so I'm so familiar. And I already feel the bond between us because of those two things. Amazing. It's just, I mean, such an inspiration. Like I said, there's all of us here from the Merit Center, and I have never seen any of us smile and listen and enjoy something like this since we all learned so much.
Thank you.
So
You
just
know,
thank you.
I feel as though I'm Roseann. I'm who I was pre-2013 with the cloak of junk on me now, you know? And I always thought that I was humorous before, but I think it's made me even funnier.
We're in recovery in different ways, and we just like to know that it's possible. I mean, there's hope in numbers.
And I think that's the key thing, because again, I will say, I don't think I would be where I am today if I did not have the support from family, friends, and complete strangers. Like, I can't even tell you, like, the ICU unit has told my mother, at first they're like, you know, no visitors. And my mother was like, whoa. And if any of you don't feel pressured, you do or you don't, but if you ever have the chance to read the book, my mother's crazy. You know, I mean, who tells her kid not to cry, okay? She's crazy. Maybe it's Italian, who knows? But she's crazy, and she is who she is. And, you know, I think I got the strongness. It was always tough love from her. And, you know, she told the ICU unit, any friend that comes here is going in to see her. Is just going in. And it was a revolving door. You know, I'm all drugged up. I'm like, why are these people here to see me? Like, I don't know what to do. I mean, I knew what kind of happened, but I didn't know what kind of happened. And I just had no clue of what was going on. And she is the one that was like, you know what? This is what's going to happen. And if you have that support, you know, it's hard to let them take over. And even coming in here today, I was lugging stuff in, and I was asked, do you need help? And pre-2013, I would say no. And maybe even 2014 and 15, I might still say no and struggle myself. But this day and age, like, I'm like, wait a minute, what are you, an idiot? Like, just, yes, I need help. I need help. And it's only gonna get worse. So, you know, God bless all of you for whatever your struggles may be. Mine are a different situation, but it is a daily struggle. It is, regardless of good, bad, or not. So, a struggle's a struggle. Absolutely. Absolutely. Another person? Any other questions? Well, thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Roseann. You know, God uses broken people like you to rescue people like you and me. And thank you so much for the woman that came here, the marriage woman. Thank you everyone that came here. And just I want to thank Justin from the Hotel Portsmouth for putting up Roseann. And thank you so much. Yes. Make sure to buy your. Roseann's actually going to be. She's the author of Perfect Strangers. She's going to be out in the hallway, and if you want to purchase her book, feel free on the way out. She can autograph that and address it to you for you. And what's it? Oh, perfect. Awesome. And just a reminder, we're selling pumpkins. The Methodist Church out there selling pumpkins. And you know what? I have to laugh when I was screwed up. I had that brain fart with the prayer. And Billy, who's here today, was a huge help in my recovery. About, I meant to say this and that. Billy goes, Freddie, don't worry, no one listens to you anyway. So that always helps me whenever I screw up. So thank you, Billy. And you know, we are, like I said, we're not affiliated with Alcoholics Anonymous, but the next two speakers are these very, very well-known speakers all over New England. These circuit speakers. Cedric, he's speaking November 5th. And he's just an outstanding, superb recovery. And then we have PJ coming up just in December as well, December 3rd. And once again, we want to thank all you guys for coming today. We've got a raffle. We have a free raffle. And Emma's going to come up and pull. We have 4 free prizes for you guys.